Picture this, a young scientist playing God, creating life from death, only to watch his creation become his worst nightmare. What if I told you that this terrifying tale, written by an 18-year-old woman in 1818, would become one of the most influential stories ever told? Welcome to the world of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a masterpiece that continues to haunt our collective imagination over 2 centuries later. You might think you know this story from Hollywood movies, but trust me, the original novel will shock you with its depth, complexity, and relevance to our modern world. This isn't just a simple monster story, it's a profound exploration of scientific ethics, human nature, and the consequences of unchecked ambition that feels more urgent today than ever before. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein stands as one of literature's most enduring and revolutionary works, fundamentally reshaping how we think about science, humanity, and moral responsibility. Published in 1818, when Shelley was merely 20 years old, this groundbreaking novel emerged from one of the most famous creative challenges in literary history. During a stormy summer in 1816 at Villa Diodati near Lake Geneva, Shelley found herself in the company of Lord Byron, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and John Polidori, where Byron proposed they each write a ghost story. While the others produced forgettable tales, Shelley crafted what would become the foundation of modern science fiction. The novel's full title, Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, immediately signals its ambitious scope. By invoking Prometheus, the Greek titan who stole fire from the gods to give to humanity, Shelley positions her story within a tradition of examining the dangerous consequences of overreaching human ambition. Yet her innovation lies in transplanting this ancient theme into the modern world of scientific discovery, creating the first true science fiction novel. What makes Frankenstein particularly remarkable is its prescient exploration of themes that remain devastatingly relevant today. Written during the Industrial Revolution's early stages, the novel grapples with questions about scientific progress, technological advancement, and their potential consequences for humanity. Shelley's exploration of artificial life creation predates modern discussions about cloning, genetic engineering, and artificial intelligence by nearly 2 centuries, yet her insights remain startlingly applicable. The narrative structure itself demonstrates Shelley's sophisticated literary craftsmanship. Rather than employing a straightforward chronological approach, she creates a complex frame narrative that moves between multiple perspectives and timeframes. This technique allows her to examine the story's central events from various angles, creating a rich, multi-layered exploration of truth, responsibility, and the nature of storytelling itself. Beyond its literary innovations, Frankenstein reflects the intellectual currents of its time while simultaneously challenging them. The novel emerged during an era of rapid scientific advancement, when figures like Luigi Galvani were experimenting with electricity's effects on dead tissue, and when the boundaries between life and death seemed increasingly permeable to scientific inquiry. Shelley transforms these contemporary fascinations into a cautionary tale about the responsibilities that accompany scientific power. The book's enduring influence extends far beyond literature, permeating popular culture, scientific discourse, and ethical debates. The term Frankenstein has entered common usage as a metaphor for any creation that turns against its creator, while the novel's themes continue to resonate in discussions about everything from nuclear weapons to genetic modification. Modern bioethics frequently references Shelley's work when grappling with questions about the limits of scientific intervention and the responsibilities of researchers. The story unfolds through a complex narrative structure that begins with Captain Robert Walton's letters to his sister, describing his Arctic expedition and his encounter with the mysterious Victor Frankenstein. Walton discovers Frankenstein pursuing a strange figure across the ice, and as Frankenstein recovers aboard Walton's ship, he shares his extraordinary and tragic tale. Victor Frankenstein, born into a wealthy Swiss family, displays an early fascination with natural philosophy and science. His childhood in Geneva is marked by his close relationships with his adopted sister Elizabeth Lavenza and his friend Henry Clerval. When Victor leaves for the University of Ingolstadt, his professors redirect his interest from medieval alchemy toward modern chemistry and anatomy, igniting his passion for understanding the secrets of life and death. Driven by an obsessive desire to conquer death itself, Victor embarks on a secret project of unprecedented ambition. Through tireless research and experimentation, he discovers the method for creating life and begins constructing a creature from carefully selected body parts. The process consumes him entirely, isolating him from family and friends as he works feverishly in his laboratory. The moment of creation proves both triumphant and horrifying. When Victor successfully animates his creature, he is immediately overwhelmed by revulsion at what he has accomplished. The being he has created, though physically powerful and initially innocent, possesses a hideous appearance that fills Victor with disgust and terror. Unable to face his creation, Victor abandons the creature and flees, leaving it to fend for itself in a world that will inevitably reject it. The abandoned creature, possessing superhuman strength and intelligence, must navigate a hostile world without guidance or companionship. Through painful experience, it learns about human society, language and emotions, but also discovers that its monstrous appearance renders it an outcast everywhere it goes. This rejection gradually transforms the creature's initial benevolence into bitter hatred, particularly toward its creator who abandoned it. Seeking revenge against Victor for creating it only to abandon it to a life of isolation, the creature begins systematically destroying everything Victor holds dear. The creature's campaign of vengeance starts with the murder of Victor's young brother William, followed by the framing of the family servant Justine, who was executed for the crime. These tragedies devastate Victor, who recognises his creature's handiwork but feels powerless to reveal the truth. The creature eventually confronts Victor directly, demanding that he create a female companion to end its terrible loneliness. Initially agreeing to this request, Victor begins work on a second creature, but ultimately destroys it, fearing that two such beings might reproduce and threaten humanity. This decision enrages the creature, who promises to make Victor's life as miserable as its own. The creature fulfills its threat by murdering Henry Clerval, and most devastatingly, Elizabeth on her wedding night with Victor. These losses drive Victor to the brink of madness and fuel his determination to hunt down and destroy his creation. The pursuit leads them both to the Arctic waste, where Victor's story intersects with Walton's expedition. After sharing his tale, Victor dies aboard Walton's ship, and the creature appears to mourn its creator before disappearing into the wilderness, vowing to destroy itself. The narrative structure of Frankenstein reveals 8 pivotal events that drive the story forward and illuminate its central themes. Each event builds upon the previous ones, creating a cascade of consequences that ultimately leads to the tragic conclusion. Victor's scientific awakening at the University of Ingolstadt represents the story's first crucial turning point. Unlike his earlier fascination with medieval alchemists, Victor's encounter with Professor Wildman opens his eyes to the genuine possibilities of modern chemistry and anatomy. This moment transforms idle curiosity into dangerous obsession, as Victor becomes consumed with the idea of creating life itself. Shelley carefully depicts this transformation, showing how Victor's initial noble intentions to benefit humanity gradually give way to personal ambition and the intoxicating allure of playing God. The creation of the creature stands as the novel's central event, though Shelley notably provides few details about the actual process. This deliberate ambiguity serves multiple purposes. It maintains the story's focus on consequences rather than methods, and it prevents the narrative from becoming outdated as scientific knowledge advances. The moment of animation proves deeply ironic, as Victor's triumph immediately transforms into horror when confronted with his creation's appearance. This scene establishes the pattern of Victor's inability to take responsibility for his actions as he abandons the creature at its most vulnerable moment. The creature's education represents a fascinating exploration of nature versus nurture. Unlike the mindless monster of popular culture, Shelley's creature possesses remarkable intelligence and emotional depth. Through observing the de Lacy family, the creature learns language, social customs, and complex emotions. Its discovery of books, particularly Paradise Lost, provides it with a framework for understanding its own existence and relationship to its creator. This self-education process makes the creature's eventual turn toward violence all the more tragic, as it demonstrates that evil is not inherent but created through society's rejection and cruelty. The murder of William Frankenstein marks the creature's transformation from innocent victim to active antagonist. This event is particularly significant because it represents the creature's first deliberate act of revenge against Victor. The creature's decision to frame Justine for the murder demonstrates its understanding of human justice systems and its willingness to manipulate them for its own ends. For Victor, William's death represents the first concrete consequence of his abandoned responsibility, though he still lacks the courage to reveal the truth and save Justine. The creature's demand for a female companion provides the story's most complex moral dilemma. The creature's arguments are compelling. It seeks only to escape its crushing loneliness and live peacefully away from human society. Its eloquent plea highlights the fundamental injustice of its situation, created without its consent, abandoned by its creator, and rejected by all who encounter it. Victor's initial agreement to create a companion suggests his recognition of his moral obligations, but his subsequent destruction of the unfinished female creature reveals his fear of the potential consequences and his continued inability to accept full responsibility for his actions. The destruction of the female creature represents Victor's most decisive action in the novel, but it also seals his fate. By denying the creature its one hope for companionship, Victor ensures that their conflict will escalate to its ultimate conclusion. The creature's promise to be with Victor on his wedding night transforms from a mysterious threat into a specific plan for revenge. This moment demonstrates how Victor's continued refusal to take responsibility for his creation perpetuates the cycle of violence and tragedy. The murder of Henry Clerval and Elizabeth represents the creature's systematic destruction of Victor's capacity for happiness and human connection. These deaths are particularly cruel because they target Victor's emotional rather than physical well-being. The creature understands that making Victor suffer as it has suffered requires destroying his relationships and leaving him isolated. Elizabeth's death on her wedding night is especially devastating because it occurs at a moment of joy and new beginnings, highlighting the creature's complete understanding of human emotions and its ability to inflict maximum psychological damage. The final pursuit through the Arctic wastes brings the story full circle to its frame narrative, while emphasizing the futility of Victor's quest for redemption through revenge. The Arctic setting serves as a metaphor for the emotional wasteland both Victor and the creature have created for themselves. Victor's death aboard Walton's ship represents the ultimate consequence of his refusal to accept responsibility, while the creature's appearance at Victor's deathbed and its promise to destroy itself suggests a complex mixture of grief, guilt, and continued isolation. The creature's final disappearance into the wilderness leaves its fate ambiguous, emphasizing the lasting consequences of Victor's original act of creation and abandonment. Frankenstein offers readers profound insights that remain remarkably relevant to contemporary life and scientific advancement. The novel's exploration of responsibility, ambition, and human nature provides valuable lessons that extend far beyond its fictional framework. The paramount lesson concerns the inescapable nature of responsibility for our creations and actions. Victor's repeated attempts to distance himself from his creature demonstrate how refusing to accept responsibility only amplifies negative consequences. In our modern world, this principle applies to everything from technological innovations to environmental policies. Scientists, entrepreneurs, and leaders must acknowledge that creating something new carries ongoing obligations to consider its impact on society and to address any harmful consequences that may arise. The novel's examination of scientific ethics proves particularly relevant in our age of rapid technological advancement. Victor's obsession with achieving scientific breakthroughs without considering their implications serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked scientific ambition. Modern parallels include debates about genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and nuclear technology, where the potential for both tremendous benefit and catastrophic harm exists. Shelley's work suggests that scientific progress must be guided by ethical considerations and social responsibility rather than purely by what is technically possible. The creature's development illustrates the profound impact of social isolation and rejection on individual behaviour. Despite its initial benevolent nature, the creature becomes violent only after experiencing consistent rejection and cruelty from human society. This transformation highlights how environmental factors shape personality and behaviour, suggesting that many problems attributed to inherent evil may actually result from social conditions. The implication for contemporary society is clear. Addressing crime, violence, and antisocial behaviour requires examining and improving social conditions rather than simply punishing individuals. Victor's deteriorating mental health throughout the novel demonstrates the psychological cost of guilt, secrecy, and isolation. His inability to share his burden with others compounds his suffering and prevents him from finding healthy ways to address his situation. This aspect of the story emphasises the importance of communication, support systems, and mental health resources in dealing with difficult circumstances. The novel suggests that many personal and social problems could be mitigated through openness, honesty, and willingness to seek help. The relationship between creator and creation explores themes of parenthood, education, and social responsibility. Victor's abandonment of his creature parallels parental neglect and its consequences. The creature's self-education through observation and reading demonstrates both the importance of proper guidance and the resilience of the learning process. This dynamic suggests that society has an obligation to provide proper education and support for all its members, particularly those who may be disadvantaged or different. The novel's portrayal of prejudice and social exclusion based on appearance remains depressingly relevant. The creature's rejection by society, despite its intelligence and initial goodwill, reflects ongoing struggles with racism, discrimination, and social inequality. Shelley's work suggests that judging others based on appearance or superficial characteristics not only harms individuals but also deprives society of their potential contributions. Frankenstein's exploration of the relationship between knowledge and power reveals how intellectual achievements can be misused without proper moral grounding. Victor's scientific knowledge gives him tremendous power, but his lack of wisdom and emotional maturity leads to tragic consequences. This theme resonates strongly in our information age, where access to knowledge and technology has never been greater, but wisdom and ethical judgment remain as important as ever. The novel's examination of revenge and justice demonstrates how cycles of violence perpetuate themselves and ultimately destroy all participants. Neither Victor nor the creature find satisfaction or peace through their mutual pursuit of revenge. This pattern suggests that breaking cycles of violence requires forgiveness, understanding, and systemic change rather than continued retaliation. Finally, the story's framing device emphasizes the importance of storytelling and communication in processing difficult experiences. Victor's decision to share his story with Walton serves both as a warning and as a form of catharsis. The multiple narrative layers suggest that understanding complex events requires multiple perspectives and that sharing our experiences can help others avoid similar mistakes. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein endures as a masterpiece because it transcends its origins as a simple ghost story to become a profound meditation on human nature, scientific responsibility, and the consequences of unchecked ambition. The novel's exploration of themes like creation, abandonment, revenge, and redemption speaks to fundamental aspects of the human experience that remain as relevant today as they were in 1818. What makes this book particularly powerful is its refusal to offer easy answers or simple moral judgments. Both Victor and his creature are simultaneously victim and victimizer, creator and destroyer. This moral complexity forces readers to grapple with difficult questions about responsibility, justice, and the nature of humanity itself. The novel suggests that our actions have consequences that extend far beyond our immediate intentions, and that we must take responsibility for these consequences, even when they prove difficult or uncomfortable. As we continue to push the boundaries of scientific knowledge and technological capability, Frankenstein's warnings about the need for ethical consideration and social responsibility become increasingly urgent. The novel reminds us that progress without wisdom can lead to tragedy, and that our greatest achievements may also contain the seeds of our greatest failures. Ultimately, Shelley's masterpiece challenges us to consider not just what we can do, but what we should do, and to remember that with great power comes great responsibility.